my fellow Whovians and subscribers, and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review Flatline, the 250th Doctor Who story. It stars Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. So, Flatline, the 9th episode of Series 8 of Doctor Who. I will admit, when I first saw this episode back in, 10 years ago, in fact, I didn't really know what to make of it at the time, and my interest in the show was sort of dwindling anyway. So how does it fare now? Well, keep watching to find out. Separated from the Doctor, Clara discovers a new menace from another dimension. But how do you hide when even the walls are no protection? With people to save and the Doctor trapped, Clara comes up against an enemy that exists beyond human perception. Flatline. As I said, when I first saw this, I wasn't particularly keen on it. I don't know why. There was just something about it I couldn't get into it at the time. As I said, my interest in the show was probably dwindling, so it could be a combination of that. So watching it many years later, after having not seen it for such a long time, I gotta say, this is really good. This is one of the best of the season by far. I don't know if it's the best. It would depend. I'll have to see how I rank it at the end of the reviews of Series 8. But I really do like this one, and I think the concept is impressive. The idea of these dimensional beings that can transport and manipulate dimensions between, 3D and 2D, hence the title Flatline being a very clever title. I think the concept is great, and the visual effects are outstanding. These are some of the best visual effects I've ever seen in the show. These are really, really good. Like, the visual effects team seriously did a good job. They should have won an award for how good these effects were, and the way that they move and they're sort of flashing, and then they go through walls, and again, how the dimensions are completely manipulated. I think it's clever, and it comes off very well when you watch the story. And it is a freaky concept, especially as you don't really know much about the entity itself. You just know that it's been taking people through the walls. And the mystery throughout this entire story is brilliantly done. And I think that it kept me engaged throughout. I was never bored. I was always intrigued to see where it was going to go. And again, as I said, the mystery is fantastic. And this is what Doctor Who should be. It should be thought-provoking, engaging, scary. These beings are, maybe they're not the scariest beings, but they are pretty freaky. I think there's a pretty freaky concept, especially when you see one of the policewomen get sucked through the floor. That's pretty rad. I will say, though, I don't know if it's perfect. I do have a couple of issues with this story, just minor issues that probably prevent it from being perfect. I mean, it is great, but fixing these issues would probably just make this, even better. For most of this story, Clara is front and center. The Doctor is, well, he's in the story, but he's stuck in the TARDIS. I do think the Doctor being in the TARDIS for the amount of time he was a bit too long. I can't deny it was sort of a shame, really, because you sort of feel a little bit disengaged. I mean, not too much, because the story's so good, but, the Doctor is the protagonist of this series. He's our hero. We want to root for him. And I'm not saying Clara shouldn't have had a big role, but it did feel as though there was a slight agenda thing going on with making Clara the focus here, and making her Dr. Clara or Clara Who. It's, I think one of the contributing factors that maybe turned a few people off of this series, because Clara was maybe slightly overused in certain aspects of Series 8. And I do believe this is one of those cases where I do like Jenna Coleman. I think she did an amazing job with the script, and she is great in this episode. But there is that element of Moffat-ism. I know Moffat didn't write the episode, but it does feel like he kind of had that agenda. He was like, write this episode so that she's the focus, not the Doctor. That's not to say the Doctor doesn't do anything. He is in it, and he does contribute, but he's just stuck in the same place. I think this was done due to scheduling reasons, that Capaldi needed his scenes to be filmed quicker than Jenna Coleman's scenes, so that's why they had to switch that around. I mean, okay, it's nice to see the companion get a bit more focused sometimes, and to see them go front and center and help the Doctor, but I can't help but feeling Capaldi was slightly underutilized in this one. Well, his performance is fine, it's just the way it's written, he can't do very much. And as well, the TARDIS gets shrunk to a very small size, and he can't obviously get out the TARDIS. And there's that great scene where there's a train coming past, and he has to use his hand to sort of, almost a bit like the Addams Family, have to crawl across the track to save himself, which is quite a clever little idea. And actually, they even reference the Addams Family in that moment as well. So there's some really clever clever ideas here. It does bother me slightly that Clara gets so much focus, and there's at times where I think she's being a little bit overconfident. And I know the Doctor is quite overconfident and occasionally arrogant. So I think Clara was just trying to act too much like the Doctor. She should have just been herself in that situation. And the companions are often always asking questions of, for the Doctor's help. It's okay to give them that leadership role, but I think, again, they didn't pitch it right for me. The other issue I have with this story is the ending. Not so much what happens at the end, but just the way the Doctor defeats the creatures. The TARDIS manages to get recharged. They manipulate the creatures into recharging the TARDIS. Then the Doctor just sort of swoops in, and then he buzzes the screwdriver, and then they're gone. That's it. Just felt like a bit of a cop-out, really, after all of the tension and all the drama. I think it would have been quite nice to have a little bit more to the end than that. It did feel a little anticlimactic. I'm not going to lie. Aside from those things, though, this is a great story. Darker is a little bit more serious. There's also moments with Danny Pink where Clara's on the phone to Danny, and she's lying about where she is and what she's doing, and he's waiting for her to go on a date with him, I'm guessing, at the park. So we'll see the Clara and Danny relationship and how that is affected as we get to the last two stories of this series. The music is great as well. The tension is fantastic. Murray Gold did a very good job there. The supporting players are fine. I wouldn't say they're anything to write home about, but they're pretty good. They do Bristol accents because the story is set in Bristol, which is a different sort of setting. It's a bit more contemporary. I mean, you can't really tell it's Bristol other than when the Doctor and Clara arrive and there's a sign that says Bristol, but everything else doesn't feel like Bristol. But then I've never been to Bristol, so I might not know exactly how it looks. But in terms of the supporting cast, we've got Riggsy. He's the biggest supporting player, played by Joyvan Wade. He's good. I wouldn't say he's anything to write home about, but he's decent. He forms a nice friendship with Clara, so that's nice. Roscoe, played by John Cummins, good. PC Forrest, played by Jessica Hales, very, very good. Fenton, played by Christopher Fairbank, and there's more. We get our next tease of Michelle Gomez, Missy. More on that in the finale. Overall, I think Flatline is a great story, and I think it really is a fantastic concept. And if these creatures were to ever return to the show, I'd love to know more about them. That's the one thing we don't get to know too much about the creatures, but I think that adds a lot of great mystery. A bit like Midnight, you don't really know what's behind the door. You'd like the fact that you don't know, and I kind of like the fact in this one that I don't know everything about the antagonists. But if they were to bring the antagonists back, I think it could be amazing, and especially in today's day and age where technology is so much more advanced, we could create even more like dimensional effects. This is one of the most technically impressive Doctor Who stories. So to round off, I'm going to give Flatline a 9 out of 10. I don't think it's perfect, not quite there. They just fixed those flaws, then potentially it could have been something slightly more. So that is my review of Flatline. What do you think of this story? Please comment down below, let me know, and stay tuned next time when I review In the Forest of the Night. So until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya.